Welcome to episode 2 of the Amazon Connect podcast with your two hosts. I'm Doug, and with me is Mark Rudkowski, who I wanted to correct because last time I dropped the middle K there. So, Mark, how you going?
Hey, how's it going, Doug? It's a pleasure to be here
Really
as
well.
always. We're on opposite ends of the globe right now, so it's late night my time and I think early morning yours right now.
Well, mid morning. So
Good morning.
I've got the easy one this time. So, and I've made a commitment to you that we will go, half and
Well,
half on that one. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And at some point, we'll probably be at reInvent and we can actually all
Well,
do the
that
same
was what I
thing.
was thinking. The in the not too distant future, we should do one, belly to belly, as they say
Yeah,
in old sales
exactly.
speak.
Right.
But let's get into it straight away, because we're going to try and clear off for people the some of the real hot what's new, as in just hot off the press.
Yeah.
And these are not the massive releases, which we'll talk about as part of longer discussions in the second half of episodes. But up front here, just getting through some of the things that have been released that maybe people haven't noticed, because I think that's the thing I get most feedback about. We just, customers say, I'm just not hearing about all the things you do. And I mean, something as big as dashboards, which are literally on the UI. I have customers who I surprise them by pointing out we have dashboards and, you know, directing them towards it. But Mark, do you want to take the first one? Which one stands out to you first up?
Yeah, so I think the first one I'll talk about is provide enhanced flow designer UI editing features, as part of Connect. So that's a new release that we've got. That again, we've had the flow designer since day one, and it's one of those things that we've just continued to iterate and improve upon in terms of capabilities because it's so strategic in terms of how you build the workflow for your
Yeah.
customer. And that is something that, I think right now we've just continued to make a lot of great enhancements to increase that overall usability, particularly as complexity increases, right? Which is what we often hear from our customers is right, is that it's complexity. Please say, give me the tools to help me make this easier to manage over time from that perspective.
Well, I think flows are probably one of the most underestimated parts of the platform. And I think this is what you're alluding to, is that they are actually the heart of everything. But
Mhm.
they're really a step function almost, in terms of, I mean, you can start a flow by creating a task that never gets answered by an agent, never just disappears off into the ether. Well, you've done a
Mhm.
bunch of things. You've executed Lambda functions, you've written to databases, you've done whatever it was you wanted to do that you can tee off and actually. So it's a workflow over and above just a call treatment or contact treatment list of instructions, which is what everyone thinks of it as. And I think as well, the power of all the different types of flows, which is one of the first things I loved about Connect, was all of a sudden, whilst the customer's in queue, you can still actually take actions. It's not like, oh, they're in there listening to hold music. There's a flow specifically for that. The
Yep.
agent whisper flow, where all of a sudden I know who the agent is, I know who the customer is, and I know all
Mhm.
the data I've looked up, and now I've got a little flow where I can execute things. I can, as I say, that's how you can very easily do last agent routing. Hey, Doug's about to speak to Mark. Go and look it
Mhm.
up later on and send it back to him. Yeah, and I think these a lot of these new features, they just make things so much easier, particularly if you've got large complex flows, being able to find your way through. I mean, I know from your deep, long ago background in professional services
Mhm.
that you would have seen some pretty crazy contact flows there, and sometimes
Yeah.
troubleshooting when it gets
Yeah.
complex can be pretty challenging.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And so this definitely helps, with giving that improved observability into those contact flows, right? And really being able to get to where, when there is a problem, go quickly find it and go fix it, as fast as possible. And I think to your point on flows, like the power of flows, it's what folks should also realize, right? It's we look at flows as, to your point, sort of that orchestration engine, right?
Hmm.
Not only within the IVR, but also as it gets into the agent experience, right? So, when we look at, capabilities like step-by-step guides, right?
Perfect
Flows power,
example.
right? And so we look at that as in terms of when you're building, whether you're building for the customer experience or you're building for the agent experience, it's the same, right? Like in terms of how you want to think about that, in terms of how you're solving that end customer's problem, right? Because you don't want to lose all of that context and goodness, right? That you've built in terms of trying to, provide a great self-service experience. And if for whatever reason it doesn't, you don't quite get there, well, make sure you don't lose any of that context when you get that to the agent. And you want to make that as easy as possible to, build that more or less agent assist capability, right? Within your flow. and workflow within, your agent experience. And that's super important, and that's why, step-by-step guides is front and center when it comes to, the agent workspace.
Yeah, yeah, and it's underutilized, I think, step-by-step guides because the full use case is yet to be uncovered. I mean, yes, you can put buttons, you can walk an agent through what they're supposed to do and things like that. But actually, once you start tying in some of the agentic AI stuff as well, so you could tee off things as things are happening and dynamically pull information back, like yeah, we'll probably guides. I think would we should do an episode on guides.
I almost feel like we're going to probably do sort of, probably like a deep dive maybe in every service. Like we could probably spend some time on QIC, right, with Q and Connect, obviously step-by-step guides,
Yeah.
cases, customer profiles, like all of these capabilities, right, that, that are coming together not only from within flows in your IVR, but also within the agent experience, right, and bringing that better together overall set of capabilities, particularly as we've made them really easy out of the box experiences today, right?
We need to get busy, Mark. That's we've just I took 2 weeks holiday. That's not going to happen again with that list of work you've just laid
Right?
out for
What
us. We've got to
vacation do
get
you
to
done? You're done.
it. So I'm going to go to the next what's new. The one that really stands out for me is the Parallel AWS Lambda execution inflows. So that's a yet again on flows. This is something I think's been a long time coming. Historically, for those who have used Lambda functions within a contact flow, basically the contact flow pauses for up to 8 seconds whilst the Lambda function goes off and does what you've told it to do. You've handed an event, and basically everything stops whilst we
Right.
wait for it. Now, eight
And why
seconds.
and Doug, maybe I'll interrupt you, but like,
Yeah.
why is that super important in the IVR, right? Because I think people are like, why 8 seconds? Like, why?
Hmm.
What's so special about 8 seconds?
Yeah, I mean, a Lambda function theoretically can run for 15 minutes, or it might be even more now since I last
Exactly.
checked. Yeah,
Yes.
so I mean, I think anything longer than 8 seconds is a historically. I mean, even 8 seconds, that's an eternity to wait in silence when you're on the phone.
Right. It totally is.
So what this allows you to do is
I've
something.
usually hung up by then, right? I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
all right,
You
I'm
think
high.
something's wrong at that point.
Right.
You think
Yeah.
something's wrong.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
What we've what a lot of people have asked over the years, and we've provided now, is the ability to continue with the treatment. It could be just play music or some comfort noises or something like it can be, but you can now execute multiple Lambda functions because that's the other thing. You might be, and again, we spoke about this on the last episode. Oftentimes, it's pretty rare for a customer to say, "I have one CRM or one data source." Usually, it's I've got 5 CRMs, I've got a billing platform, I've got an ERP, I've got my data's everywhere, and there might even be external data that I'm looking up from somewhere. You want to be able to execute all of those simultaneously if you are trying to find and get a full view of the customer for that contextualization and routing. So maybe getting slightly nerdy for some of the people out there, but yeah, the parallel Lambda execution, so you can carry on with the experience whilst you go off and look something up, or execute multiple at once, so you can get a bunch of things back. Cool. All right. Anything else stand out from the what's new for you there, Mark?
See what else we got here top of the list. I think one here that's interesting. We now publish post-contact completion events to the contact
Oh, yeah.
event line,
Yep.
right? I think that's an interesting one. Again, we so that for folks who don't know, right, the contact event stream is essentially it allows you to really sort of see what is going on, right, as is through the customer journey, right, that's taking place in terms of your overall contact, right?
And let's draw a distinction there because we do have an agent event stream as well. So
Yes, we do.
we're looking at what the agent's doing. The one you're talking about is just what happens to every single contact. If you choose
Exactly.
to subscribe to it and look at it, you can see everything that was done to them throughout. But yeah, go on, Mark.
Yeah, exactly. And so essentially now having, this improved visibility, right? Like again, you sort of get that full life cycle, right? Visibility in terms of what's happening, right? And because you have that visibility, you can now essentially drive other events, right, off that contact event stream, right? Which again, those can range from anything from an agent wrapping up their work, right, to when a ticket is done, right, and they need to execute some additional tasks or actions on top of that, right? You have that observability to when that's happening, and then basically I start to execute those actions, right, on behalf of the agent. So pretty powerful stuff in terms of
And it ties back to what you were talking about before, which is a real differentiator for Connect, and that is that keeping context end to end, right from an automated interaction up front through to an agent conversation to even once the conversation is finished, and you're wrapping up and doing all these things that you're able to not look from a routing perspective, from a reporting perspective, and for a customer experience, having that context maintained throughout. You start with a web chat, you escalate to a voice call or even a video call, all that kind of thing, and then anything that happens from the agent side or the contact side once you release the contact as well. Yeah, it just means from a reporting, getting that 360-degree view of what's happening to your customers. Yeah, it just gets better and better and better. And I was going to finish up with, well, I'm going to talk about a larger topic by way of a small change to it. And Amazon Connect now offers the ability to exclude certain proficiencies during routing. Anyone who is a contact center professional who is interested in routing and has been doing things like skills-based routing or been doing
Hmm.
any kind of prioritization of work or things like that, proficiency-based routing is, I think, the most exciting change within this space in the contact center in years, and that is the ability to decouple your reporting from your routing. So you
Hmm.
can have a customer service call, and you might say, "But I want it to go to someone who speaks a certain language or has a certain, within my customer service team. I want to report on it just as a customer service interaction, but I want to make sure a Spanish speaker gets it, who knows about SharePoint, who knows about, and you can see very quickly how historically, if I wanted to have someone who spoke multiple languages and had certain capabilities, and I wanted to route to them, I'd have to create an entire queue just for them,
Yes,
and
exactly.
that's just not scalable. And the idea that you can now move towards, because we've already got attributes on the contact side, and now with proficiencies on the agent side, you're getting that matching engine finally, where you're actually able to almost have dynamic queues or dynamic skill groups where you're saying, okay, for this call, Mark and Doug are the right people to take it. Okay, for this next call that comes in, Mark's the right person. Doug's not appropriate because he doesn't have the appropriate proficiency. And all of a sudden, these dynamic groups where you're getting it to the right person at the right time, but your reporting is not now this total mess,
Right.
ragtag of things going
Exactly.
everywhere. I mean,
Exactly. Yeah.
it's yeah. I think we kind of snuck that one out. So often, some really big, impactful releases come out that I think a lot of customers, we don't take the time to explain to them exactly how this could change their contact center. And proficiency
Totally.
routing, I think, is one of those ones that's just floated on out into the ether,
Right. Yeah.
and people don't take advantage of it.
Yeah. I think that's 100% right, because before that, right, it was a bit complex, right, when you tried to mimic that type of
You
approach.
couldn't really do it. You couldn't do
Yeah.
it
Yeah. Exactly.
at
Exactly.
scale. I mean, imagine what I'm talking about in 1,000-seat contact center. Like
Right.
with all the different
Permutation.
specialties, and yeah,
Oh,
it'd be
we used to,
impossible.
like we would see that, right? Like we would go talk to customers, and they had, here's my list of 3,000 skills that I have to
Yeah,
that
yeah.
I have to orchestrate around, right? And
And that's the thing. When you talk to them, they don't actually, of course, have 3,000 skills. It's just
right.
there's
Yeah.
SharePoint Spanish, SharePoint Italian, SharePoint
Yep.
Spanish and Italian,
Exactly.
SharePoint English.
Yes.
These are not skills. These are proficiencies. Yeah. Now, that's our first episode probably went a little bit longer than we intended, but we had a lot to cover, so I don't want to drag this one out too long. We'll do them
I think we
more
talked about, like, we
regularly,
want to maybe try to get more of these, more
more
with
shorter.
maybe shorter. Yes, thank you. I might learn to talk today. That would be great. Um, but yeah,
I'm also struggling,
shorter
Mark.
episodes. Get more of these out, because I think it's been a few weeks, right? Because
It
we've
has,
just
yeah. Again, I selfishly took 2 weeks off, and then schedules being
so yes,
schedules
I
took us a
blame
moment
Doug.
to,
It's all
yeah.
Doug's fault. Our
It is
content.
entirely my fault. It was a lovely holiday, though. Thank you for asking. But so I want to get into our big topic, which again I don't think needs to be too big, but we want to just talk a little bit about some of the agentic stuff that we're doing in Connect, because it is such a big topic.
Totally.
And so, Mark, I'll throw to you for that. But yeah, I think this is a nice sort of format to expect going forward, where we'll try and cover off some of the what's new, and then try and tackle a slightly larger topic and get some experts into. Not that we're not experts, of course, but get some specific experts, people with proficiencies
Yes,
into.
we're gonna route them into our podcast.
That's right. Well, we'll use that. We'll use that. But yeah, Mark, let's kick it off. Talk to me
Yeah.
about agentic within
And I
Connect.
think maybe we touched a little bit on our last podcast, but we introduced unlimited AI,
Mhm.
right, back in March of this year, and the goal of that is really ensuring that with Connect, what we heard from a lot of customers is, great, you have all these AI capabilities, but how do I best take advantage of those, right? And how do we introduce this a way where, you know, where we have this deep integration of AI across all of our services, easily enabling customers to start to basically more or less start to experiment, play around with it, better use it against their, their business use cases, and start to build that confidence in terms of leveraging it and enabling it across the various use cases that they have today. So the unlimited AI really is one of those big first. I think we think it's highly differentiating in terms of, against other
Absolutely.
contact centers, being able to really, have one cost model, right? Basically, that I kind of want to call it like an all you can eat type
Well,
cost model.
I don't think it's a controversial statement to say the reason up until Amazon Connect came along, the voice experience for most contact centers was totally undifferentiated. Hi,
Yes,
welcome to the contact center. Press one for this, press two for that. Was because every time you wanted to try and do something, whether it be get a CTI server and CTI license application server, you had to go to the money people and say, hey, could we have some money for this?
right,
What this
exactly.
allows people to do is actually think, well, do we want the concept of an AI contact center?
Mhm.
Yes, we do. Well, here is the
Yes,
cost model for it,
yep,
and from here you can start to build, pick and choose, use the off the shelf features, the tick boxes, all the rest of summarization. All of this will
yes.
is now available to you without you having to go and get another purchase order, without you having to go and make another business case, all that kind of thing.
Exactly. And the great thing is you don't have to go buy a bunch of licenses up front either, right? From that perspective, right? And so you can start to progressively introduce this and adopt this. And really that's the key part with Connect is when you have all of these AI services working together, you're really then introducing that flywheel effect in terms of, right, starting with your self-service experience, driving into your agent experience, and then getting essentially all the insights out of that, right, to then improve the overall business and experience that you have with your end customers.
And you're getting insights that you've never had before. It's
Right.
not just better insights, it's totally
Yes.
new categories of insights. You're now knowing what every single conversation is about, what every, which agents are doing what on every single call, not just the ones you manage to listen to, the 2 calls per agent per month.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. So, and so I think that is where we're, I think where our advantage with Connect is, like, it's like we're doing this in sort of a very structured approach in terms of how do you best apply AI against the contact center use cases today, and I think it's an interesting tension that I think we're seeing with, I think where LLMs are coming in and solving a lot of these key use cases, but we're also still learning a lot about LLMs and what is the right fit for them, because an LLM isn't going to solve every use case that you need in the contact center. So it's really about an aspect of how you want to balance that. But it's particularly around, the cost and the amount of time and investment that you need to, in terms of where you are today and where you need to go, that transformation. That there's a cost and an effort to do that, right? And so
Yeah,
that's the balancing act that you have to maintain.
exactly
And
that. It's where do you find yourself on that continuum of, you know, organizations that want to go full AI? We want to remove every human out of the loop. We trust the LLM, all the way back to we are differentiating on customer service. Humans matter the most. We only want to use humans because that's, and for a lot of businesses that will be the case where they're they're not really differentiating on product because they're selling the same product as
right.
or very
Mhm.
similar products, and service is how they differentiate. I mean, arguably Amazon.com is a good example of that, where you can
Yeah,
buy those products from lots of places potentially. So why would you buy from Amazon? It's by being absolutely laser focused on customer obsession and making sure that the service experience is good, and it is
yep,
an outstanding experience from
yeah,
Amazon.com. And I think Amazon.com is a really good example of where you can use AI in concert with humans.
right.
And I mean, maybe a deep dive on Amazon.com would be worthwhile in future episodes. But yeah, I think that's probably a good place to leave it actually, because the tyranny of time is upon us in that I have my next meeting to go to, which
There we go. That's
so I
your
should
bed
wrap it
behind at
up.
night. I don't have to go to a next meeting. I'm done for tonight.
Well, I believe it is. It must be knocking on 10 p.m. for you. So I think I hope you. I absolutely hope you're done.
It's all good.
But thanks again, Mark, and I'll see you next week, and we'll see our people next week.
Sounds good. Looking forward to
Thanks,
it.
mate. Bye bye.
Have a good one. Bye now.